The massive crystalline halls of the Galactic Council headquarters stretched endlessly in all directions, their walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that translated the words and thoughts of over 300 different species into pure light. Ambassador David Kane stood alone at the center of the judgment platform, a simple figure in dark blue uniform surrounded by the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. Above him, tier upon tier of alien representatives watched from their specialized atmospheric chambers. The insectoid Vorthak delegation clicked their mandibles in rhythmic patterns of disdain. The energy-based luminari flickered with colors that indicated amusement at human presumption. The massive stone-like beings of the Titan Collective remained motionless, but their electromagnetic fields radiated disapproval. High Chancellor Corinth, a creature that resembled living coral fused with crystalline technology, leaned forward from the central throne. When he spoke, his words resonated through neural translators implanted in every delegate's consciousness, creating perfect understanding across hundreds of languages and communication methods. Human Representative David Kane. The Chancellor's voice boomed through the chamber, causing minor gravitational fluctuations that made several smaller delegates adjust their position fields. You stand before this council for the final time. For 78 standard cycles, your species has maintained what you call defensive silence regarding your military capabilities. This ends today. Kane remained perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. His calm demeanor seemed almost insulting in the face of such overwhelming authority. Around the chamber, representatives from civilizations that had conquered entire star systems before Earth even developed writing watched him with barely concealed contempt. Ambassador Thrix of the Hegemony Empire, her serpentine form coiled within a zero-gravity field, spoke with the authority of a species that had never lost a military engagement. Perhaps the humans have finally realized they have nothing meaningful to contribute to galactic civilization. Their world produces no unique technologies, commands no significant fleets, and controls no strategic resources. A wave of harmonized agreement echoed from the melodic consortium's crystalline representatives. Their chiming voices carried across the chamber in perfect unison. We have encountered thousands of species in our expansion across the galaxy. Most demonstrate their capabilities proudly upon first contact. Only the truly primitive attempt to hide their limitations through silence. Kane finally spoke, his voice calm and measured despite the cosmic authority arrayed against him. Honored Chancellor, humanity has never claimed superiority in any field. We have simply chosen not to discuss certain aspects of our civilization. Chosen? Chancellor Corinth's massive form shifted, causing the platform beneath Kane to vibrate with residual energy. You speak as if you have options in this matter. The Galactic Defense Accords require all member species to declare their strategic capabilities for proper integration into Council defense networks. The air in the chamber grew thick with tension as hundreds of species began transmitting among themselves. Kane could feel the weight of their collective judgment. To them, humanity was nothing more than an upstart species from a backwater world, attempting to maintain secrets from civilizations that had mastered interstellar travel when Earth's continents were still forming. When human delegation has been granted unprecedented patience, declared Ambassador Vex of the Dominion Collective, his blue-scaled form towering above most other representatives. No other species has been permitted such extended secrecy periods. This tolerance ends now. Your species controls a single star system, added Representative Krill of the Trade Federation, her mechanical voice carrying the precision of pure logic. Your technological development follows predictable patterns. Your military assets are easily calculated based on your resource availability. What could you possibly possess that requires such elaborate concealment? Kane looked up at the assembled representatives. These beings who commanded fleets capable of shattering planets and technologies that could reshape reality itself. His expression remained unchanged, but something in his eyes seemed to shift, as if depths previously hidden were becoming visible. Honored delegates, he said quietly, what if humanity's silence isn't about hiding weakness? The chamber fell into absolute quiet. Even the bioluminescent translation patterns on the walls seemed to dim as every being present focused on the lone human standing in their midst. Chancellor Corinth leaned forward, his voice carrying a note of dangerous curiosity. Explain yourself, human. Kane smiled, a simple expression that somehow made several alien representatives shift uncomfortably in their various forms of suspension and containment fields. What if we've been silent because the truth would fundamentally alter your understanding of this galaxy? Before anyone could respond, Kane reached into his uniform and produced a small crystalline device. He held it up for all to see, and the chamber's sensors immediately began analyzing it. Within seconds, alerts began flashing across hundreds of monitoring systems. "Impossible," whispered the chief science officer of the Titan Collective, his voice rumbling like tectonic activity. "The energy signature is reading as stable antimatter containment, but the device is too small. The power requirements alone would require a structure the size of a moon." Kane placed the device on the platform before him. As he did, the chamber's most sophisticated sensors began detecting something that made their operators double-check their readings. The space around the device was showing gravitational anomalies that suggested the presence of mass far exceeding what should be possible in such a small object. "This device," Kane said conversationally, "contains the complete technical specifications for antimatter manipulation, zero-point energy extraction, and something your species call impossible or stable manipulation of space-time geometry." The chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of different species began transmitting, clicking, harmonizing, and broadcasting their disbelief simultaneously. Emergency science protocols activated as every faction attempted to scan the device more thoroughly. "Furthermore," Kane continued over the noise, his voice somehow carrying clearly despite the pandemonium, "this represents technology that humanity developed over 60 cycles ago. We've been improving since then." Chancellor Corinth raised one massive appendage and immediate silence fell across the chamber. His voice carried undertones of something approaching fear. "Human Kane, are you claiming your species has mastered technologies that our most advanced civilizations consider theoretical impossibilities?" Kane's smile widened slightly. "I'm claiming that humanity's silence was never about hiding our limitations, Chancellor. It was about preventing panic when you realized what we actually are." The crystalline device began to pulse with soft light, and every sensor in the chamber registered energy readings that redefined their understanding of what was possible. In that moment, 300 of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations realized they might have been fundamentally wrong about the species they had dismissed as primitive. And David Kane, representing humanity before the cosmic authority of the Galactic Council, had just fired the opening shot in a revelation that would reshape everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. The silence that followed was deafening. The emergency analysis began immediately. While David Kane stood calmly on the judgment platform, the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy focused their most advanced instruments on the small crystalline device he had placed before them. What they discovered challenged the fundamental laws of physics as they understood them. Dr. Verlix of the Titan Collective, whose species had mastered stellar engineering 5,000 years before humans discovered fire, spoke first. Her massive stone-like form vibrated with confusion as she transmitted her findings. "The internal structure of this device violates conservation of mass principles. Our sensors detect computational matrices that appear to exist in folded space-time dimensions." "Impossible," declared Science Prime Zorath of the Luminary Confederacy, his energy-based form flickering with patterns of disbelief. "Our species evolved beyond physical matter 2 millennia ago. We understand energy manipulation at the quantum level. Nothing this small could contain the power signatures we're detecting." Kane listened to their debates with apparent patience. "Perhaps your instruments need recalibration," he suggested mildly. The insult was not lost on the assembled delegates. These were civilizations that had unraveled the secrets of black holes, constructed ring worlds around stars, and achieved faster-than-light travel through dimensional manipulation. The suggestion that their instruments were inadequate was almost unthinkable. Chancellor Corinth's voice cut through the scientific chaos. "Human Kane, this council demands immediate clarification. Are you claiming your species has developed technology beyond our understanding?" "Not beyond your understanding, Chancellor," Kane replied. "Beyond your imagination." He gestured toward the device, and it responded by projecting a 3-dimensional hologram into the chamber's center. The image showed Earth's solar system, but not as the Council remembered it. Where once they had catalogued 9 simple planets orbiting a standard yellow star, The hologram revealed a vast network of structures connecting every celestial body in the system. "Magnificent deception," muttered Ambassador Thrix, her serpentine form coiling tighter within her containment field. "Your species has hidden this construction from our long-range sensors for decades." "We haven't hidden anything," Kane said. "You simply lack the conceptual framework to perceive what you're looking at." The hologram shifted, showing the same solar system from a different perspective. This time, the planets themselves appeared to be components of a larger machine, connected by streams of energy that pulsed with the rhythm of something alive. What the Council had always seen as empty space was revealed to be filled with structures too complex for their sensors to properly interpret. "Representative," Krill's mechanical voice carried a note of frustrated logic. "Our surveillance networks monitor all inhabited systems continuously. We have detailed scans of your solar system spanning the last century. These structures simply do not exist. They exist in dimensions you haven't learned to perceive yet," Kane explained patiently. "Your species understands 3 spatial dimensions plus time. Humanity works with 11 spatial dimensions and 3 temporal streams." The chamber fell silent except for the hum of desperately working analysis equipment. What Kane was describing was theoretically possible according to advanced mathematical models, but practically impossible to achieve without computational power that would require the resources of entire star systems. Ambassador Vex of the Dominion Collective found his voice first. "Even if we accept this impossible claim, what purpose could such construction serve? What could your species possibly need that requires engineering on this scale?" Kane's expression grew serious for the first time. "Defense. Defense against what?" Chancellor Corinth demanded. "The galaxy has been at peace for over 300 cycles. Our combined fleets could protect any member species from conventional threats." "Not conventional threats, Chancellor. Existential ones." The hologram changed again, this time showing something that made every being in the chamber experience species-specific fear responses. Beyond the edge of their galaxy, in the vast darkness between star clusters, massive shapes were moving. They were too large to be ships, too organic to be constructs, and too purposeful to be natural phenomena. "The Devourers," Kane said quietly. "Entities that consumed the first civilizations before your species evolved beyond planetary boundaries. They feed on stellar energy, strip worlds of all useful matter, and leave behind only empty space and cosmic dust." Dr. Verlix's massive form trembled. "The Devourers are legends, ancient myths meant to explain the empty regions between galaxies. Your long-range sensors have detected them," Kane stated matter-of-factly. "Your scientists have classified the readings as natural phenomena or measurement errors. They're neither." The truth of his words was immediately verifiable. Across the chamber, science officers began frantically reviewing decades of sensor data, reanalyzing readings that had been dismissed as background noise or equipment malfunction. Patterns emerged that painted a terrifying picture of something vast and hungry approaching their galaxy. "How long do we have?" Ambassador Thrix asked, her usual arrogance replaced by professional urgency. 14 standard months until first contact with our outer colonies," Kane replied. "Approximately 36 months until they reach the core civilizations." Chancellor Corinth leaned forward, his massive presence suddenly seeming smaller in the face of cosmic horror. "If this threat is real, why have you maintained silence? Why allow us to remain unprepared?" Kane looked up at the Chancellor with something approaching sympathy. "Because preparation requires unity of purpose that your Council has never achieved. Your civilizations compete with each other even in the face of extinction. Humanity has been preparing alone because we learned early that cooperation among your species is impossible." "You're wrong," declared Representative Krill with mechanical certainty. "When faced with existential threat, all logical species unite against common enemies." "Are they?" Kane asked quietly. "In the last 10 minutes, while discussing the end of galactic civilization, 3 different factions have begun calculating how they could use this crisis to eliminate political rivals. The Hegemony Empire is considering whether the Titan Collective's industrial capacity makes them a threat worth eliminating before the Devourers arrive. The Trade Federation is running probability assessments on post-crisis resource redistribution scenarios." The accuracy of his observations sent a chill through the chamber. Kane was describing political calculations that were indeed running through multiple delegations' strategic planning networks. "Humanity has spent 78 cycles preparing for what's coming," Kane continued. We've developed defense systems your species can't comprehend, using technologies you can't detect, powered by energy sources you don't know exist. We've done this in isolation because unity was impossible. Chancellor Corinth's voice carried new gravity. What are you proposing, human? Nothing, Kane replied. Humanity will defend itself when the Devourers arrive. The rest of the galaxy is welcome to attempt their own solutions. The crystal device pulsed once more, and suddenly every delegate in the chamber received a data transmission directly into their consciousness. The information contained detailed analysis of Devourer capabilities, projected invasion timelines, and strategic assessments that painted a devastating picture of galactic defense prospects. Study the data, Kane said as he picked up the device. Calculate your odds of survival using current galactic defense capabilities. When you've finished your analysis, humanity will be waiting. He turned to leave, but Chancellor Corinth's voice stopped him. Wait, you're abandoning the Council? Kane paused at the platform's edge. No, Chancellor. We're simply acknowledging what we learned 78 cycles ago. In a crisis, every species looks after itself first.
Humanity has been looking after itself all along. As the chamber doors sealed behind the human ambassador,
the greatest governing body in galactic history was left to contemplate a terrifying truth. They had spent decades dismissing a species that might be their only hope for survival, and that species had just walked away. 72 hours after David Kane's departure from the Galactic Council, the galaxy erupted into chaos. Emergency sessions convened across 300 star systems as civilizations that had existed for millennia struggled to process information that challenged their understanding of reality itself. In the Hegemony Empire's war chambers, Supreme Commander Exthal studied holographic displays showing deep space sensor data from the past century. Her blue-scaled form remained motionless as tactical analysts presented findings that confirmed humanity's warnings with terrifying precision. The objects we classified as rogue planetoids show consistent acceleration patterns, reported Chief Analyst Vorth, his scales shifting to colors indicating extreme concern. They're not natural phenomena. They're under intelligent control and they're targeting our galaxy. Estimated time to first contact? Commander Exthal asked, though she already knew the answer would confirm her worst fears. 14 months to reach our outer mining colonies. The humans were correct to the day. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out in the council chambers of every major civilization. The Titan Collective's massive computational networks worked around the clock, processing data that their greatest scientists had dismissed as background noise for decades. The Trade Federation's logical analysis matrices calculated and recalculated survival probabilities, reaching the same devastating conclusion each time. Conventional galactic defenses had zero chance of success against the approaching threat. The Luminary Confederacy, beings of pure energy who considered themselves beyond physical destruction, discovered that the Devourers consumed stellar radiation as easily as they stripped worlds of matter. Even existence as living light offered no protection against entities that fed on the fundamental forces of the universe. Emergency diplomatic channels buzzed with activity as ancient enemies attempted to form defensive alliances. The Cathari Dominion and the Vorthak Collective, species that had been at war for over 1,000 years, found themselves discussing joint military operations for the first time in their history. But every strategic planning session reached the same impossible conclusion. They needed technology beyond their current capabilities, unified command structures their political systems couldn't support, and defensive capabilities that existed only in theoretical physics papers. They needed humanity. The problem was that humanity had vanished. 3 days after Kane's departure, every human embassy, research station, and diplomatic post throughout the galaxy had been quietly abandoned. Trade ships registered to Earth-based companies had disappeared from commercial shipping lanes. Even human students and researchers in galactic universities had simply vanished without explanation. In the council chambers, an emergency session convened with representatives from only the most powerful civilizations. Chancellor Corinth's massive form seemed diminished as he addressed the assembly. Our best intelligence networks have lost all contact with human civilization, he announced. Long-range sensors directed at the Sol system are encountering unprecedented interference. We cannot determine their current status or capabilities. Ambassador Thrix coiled her serpentine form tightly within her containment field.
They're preparing for war while we waste time in debate.
Every day we delay is another day they advance beyond our ability to comprehend, much less compete with. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Representative Krill, her mechanical voice carrying unusual inflection patterns indicating stress in her logical matrices. Direct military reconnaissance of the Sol system, Thrix replied immediately. If the humans possess defensive technologies capable of stopping the Devourers, we need to understand those capabilities. If they're lying about their advancement, we need to know before we waste resources on impossible hopes. Dr. Verlix of the Titan Collective transmitted her concerns through gravitational wave patterns. Military reconnaissance against a species claiming dimensional manipulation capabilities could be interpreted as an act of war. If they possess even half the technologies Kane demonstrated, such an action could prove catastrophic. More catastrophic than facing the Devourers with conventional weapons, Thrix challenged. The question hung in the chamber's atmosphere like a toxic cloud. Every military simulation run by every civilization had reached the same conclusion. Against entities capable of consuming entire star systems, their combined fleets would last approximately 6 hours. Chancellor Corinth made the decision that would define the galaxy's future. We authorize a joint reconnaissance mission to the Sol system. 3 ships maximum, representing our most advanced civilizations. The mission parameters are strictly observational unless human. Actions prove immediately threatening to galactic security. The fleet assembled. At the edge of Council space consisted of vessels representing the pinnacle of galactic military engineering. The hegemony's flagship, Stellar Domination, carried weapons capable of cracking planets. The Titan Collective's Mountain of Stars was essentially a mobile fortress, powered by controlled black hole technology. The Luminary Confederacy's pure radiance existed partially in energy dimensions, making it theoretically impossible to destroy through conventional means. Commander Exthal assumed overall command, her tactical experience spanning over 2 centuries of warfare. As the fleet approached the boundary of Sol system space, she felt confident that any species, no matter how advanced, would recognize the futility of opposing such overwhelming force. The first indication that something was wrong came when their sensors detected the Sol system's outer boundary. Where space should have been empty except for the usual debris and ice, their instruments registered a barrier of some kind surrounding the entire star system like a sphere. Analysis, Commander Exthal ordered. Unknown. Commander, her science officer reported. The barrier appears to be composed of organized space-time distortions. It's not solid matter, energy fields, or any known defensive technology. Can we penetrate it? We're not detecting any defensive capabilities. It appears to be purely observational, almost like a sensor network. The fleet approached the barrier cautiously. As they crossed its boundary, every instrument on all 3 ships registered the same impossible reading. They were being scanned by technologies that operated on principles their science couldn't even classify. Then space around them simply changed. The Sol system that appeared before them bore no resemblance to the star charts in their databases. Where 9 planets should have orbited a standard yellow star, they found a vast mechanical construct that defied comprehension. Planets had been transformed into components of a machine so large that its purpose escaped understanding. Streams of energy connected every celestial body in patterns that created geometric forms spanning astronomical distances. By the void, whispered Commander Exthal's tactical officer. The entire star system has been converted into a single mechanism. What kind of mechanism? Exthal demanded. Before anyone could answer, their communication systems activated without any input from their crews. David Kane's image appeared on every screen aboard all 3 ships simultaneously. "Welcome to Sol space," he said with the same calm demeanor he had displayed in the council chambers. "You're now inside humanity's primary defense network. Please maintain current position while we determine whether you represent a threat to galactic security." Commander Exthal activated her response channel, but Kane continued speaking as if he hadn't noticed. "Your ships are currently surrounded by approximately 4 million autonomous defense platforms, each capable of disabling your vessels at the molecular level. Please do not interpret this as hostility. We're simply ensuring proper protocols are followed." On their sensor displays, space around the fleet suddenly revealed itself to be filled with structures too small to have been previously detected. Millions of devices, each no larger than a fighter craft, surrounded them in perfect geometric formations. Commander Exthal, Kane said, addressing her directly. Your reconnaissance mission is approved. You'll be escorted through our defensive perimeter for a brief educational demonstration. Please observe carefully as you'll need to report accurately to the Council regarding humanity's current capabilities. The escort that approached their fleet consisted of 3 vessels that redefined every assumption about ship design. They weren't built. They appeared to have grown, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal while maintaining perfect structural integrity. Each ship was roughly pyramidal, but with dimensions that seemed to exist in more than 3 spatial directions. As the human vessels drew closer, every sensor on the reconnaissance fleet registered readings that violated known physics. The human ships were simultaneously present in normal space and partially phased into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Follow the escort vessels, Kane instructed. You're about to see why humanity has been silent for 78 cycles. Commander Exthal had commanded fleets against impossible odds, faced down rebellions that threatened entire star systems, and survived encounters with ancient automated defense networks. But as her ship followed the human escort deeper into soul space, she experienced something she hadn't felt since her species evolved beyond fear responses. Absolute terror at the incomprehensible power surrounding her. And they were about to discover this was only the beginning. The human escort led the reconnaissance fleet deeper into Sol space, past structures that challenged every assumption about engineering and physics. Commander Exthal watched through her flagship's viewports as they approached what had once been Mars, now transformed into something that defied classification. The planet had been converted into a vast computational matrix, its surface covered with crystalline formations that pulsed with patterns of light. Energy streams connected it to similar structures throughout the system, creating a network that operated on scales beyond galactic comprehension. Tactical analysis, Exthal ordered, though she suspected her instruments were inadequate for the task. Commander, we're detecting computational processing power equivalent to our entire civilization's combined networks, her science officer reported. But that's impossible. The energy requirements alone would require a Dyson sphere around the primary star. Through their communication channels, David Kane's voice provided commentary, as if conducting a guided tour. What you're observing is humanity's primary consciousness integration network. Approximately 60% of our species exists in digital form, merged with quantum computational matrices that operate across 11-dimensional planes. Dr. Zerion of the Titan Collective, serving as scientific observer aboard the Mountain of Stars, transmitted his analysis through gravitational pulses. The humans appear to have achieved technological singularity without losing their biological heritage. They've created a hybrid consciousness that operates simultaneously in physical and digital dimensions. How is this possible? Commander Exthal asked over the shared communication channel. Kane's image appeared on her screen again, but this time his appearance had changed subtly. His eyes seemed to contain depths that reflected starfields, and when he spoke, harmonics in his voice suggested vast computational networks operating behind his words. Your species view biological and artificial intelligence as separate phenomena, he explained. Humanity discovered they're simply different expressions of the same underlying principles. We didn't replace our consciousness with machines. We expanded it through integration with quantum processing networks. The escort vessels guided them past what had once been Jupiter, now serving as the core of an energy collection system that harvested power from dimensional interfaces. Streams of exotic matter flowed between massive collector arrays, channeling forces that existed beyond normal space-time. The energy output we're detecting, reported the science officer aboard Pure Radiance, exceeds the total stellar output of our primary star. But it's not fusion energy. It's something our instruments can't classify. Zero-point energy extraction, Kane said matter-of-factly. We're drawing power directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations across multiple dimensions. The energy potential is essentially infinite. Commander Exthal felt her confidence eroding with each revelation. Her fleet represented the pinnacle of galactic military power. But they were observing technologies that made their most advanced systems seem primitive by comparison. Why show us this? She asked. You could have maintained your secrecy indefinitely. Kane's expression grew serious. Because in 8 days, advanced scouts of the Devourer entities will reach our outer detection grid. In 11 days, you'll receive confirmation of first contact through your own sensor networks. The galaxy has 11 days to decide whether it wants our help or prefers to face extinction alone. The implications hit the reconnaissance fleet like a gravitational wave. The threat wasn't 14 months away, it was days from reaching them. That's impossible, Dr. Zarian protested. Our calculations showed 14 months minimum travel time. Your calculations assumed linear travel through normal space, Kane replied. The Devourers move through dimensional interfaces that compress space-time. They're not traveling to this galaxy, they're bringing this galaxy to them. As if to emphasize his point, the escort vessels led them to a viewing position where long-range displays showed the galaxy's edge. Through enhancement systems that operated beyond their understanding, they could see the approaching entities clearly for the first time. The Devourers weren't ships or constructs. They were living voids in space-time itself, entities so massive that they distorted light and matter around them. Each one was larger than entire star systems, moving through space by consuming the dimensional fabric of reality itself. There are hundreds of them, whispered the tactical officer aboard Stellar Domination. 2,417 confirmed entities, Kane corrected, each capable of consuming a solar system within approximately 6 hours. They've already destroyed 3 civilizations in neighboring galaxies that we attempted to warn. Commander Exthal's military training took over despite her shock. What defensive capabilities do you possess against entities of this scale? Would you like a demonstration? Before she could respond, space around the reconnaissance fleet suddenly filled with activity. The human escort vessels began transmitting signals that activated dormant structures throughout the Sol system. What had appeared to be empty space revealed itself to be filled with defensive platforms that materialized as if phasing into existence from parallel dimensions. Observe, Kane said simply. The demonstration target was an asteroid roughly the size of a small moon, selected from the belt between Mars and Jupiter. The human defensive network focused on it with weapons that operated on principles the reconnaissance fleet couldn't even detect. The asteroid didn't explode or disintegrate. It simply ceased to exist, leaving behind not even atomic particles. Where matter had been, there was now empty space so complete that it created a visible void against the star field. Complete matter conversion, Kane explained. We convert hostile targets into pure energy, which is then channeled into our defensive grid. The Devourers consume matter and energy, but they cannot consume converted space-time itself. Dr. Zarian's calculations ran frantically as he attempted to comprehend what he had witnessed. The energy release from complete matter conversion should have been visible across the entire system. Where did it go? Into dimensional storage matrices, Kane replied. We've learned to store energy in folded space-time dimensions, effectively creating infinite capacity power reserves. The demonstration continued with increasingly impossible displays of technology. Defensive platforms phased between dimensions to avoid targeting. Weapons fired across space-time interfaces to strike targets in different galactic regions instantly. Most terrifying of all, they observed manufacturing systems that created new defensive platforms by converting raw vacuum into organized matter. How many defensive platforms do you possess? Commander Exthal asked, though she suspected the answer would shatter her remaining assumptions. Currently active throughout human space, approximately 40 billion autonomous units with manufacturing capacity to produce 10,000 additional platforms daily. The numbers were incomprehensible. The entire galactic fleet combined possessed fewer than 1 million vessels of all types. Humanity had defensive capabilities that outnumbered their combined civilization's total military assets by factors of thousands. Why didn't you reveal this capability 78 cycles ago? Dr. Zarian asked. Kane's expression showed something approaching sadness. Because your civilizations would have attempted to steal our technology, declare war to prevent our advancement, or demand we solve all galactic problems immediately. We've observed this pattern in 47 different species across 8 galaxies. Advanced civilizations are never welcomed, they're feared, attacked, or exploited. But now you're revealing everything, Commander Exthal observed. Because the Devourers represent extinction for all consciousness in this galaxy, humanity can survive their assault through dimensional phase shifting. Your civilizations cannot. We're offering one chance for galactic unity against an existential threat. The reconnaissance fleet received detailed tactical data about the approaching entities, including projected attack patterns, consumption rates, and strategic assessment of galactic defensive capabilities using conventional technology. The conclusion was unavoidable. Without human assistance, every civilization in the galaxy would be extinct within 6 months of first contact. "What are your terms?" Commander Exthal asked, her military pragmatism overriding her shock at humanity's revelations. Kane's response carried the weight of species-level decision-making. Immediate dissolution of the Galactic Council. All military forces placed under unified human command. Complete technological integration with our defensive networks, and formal recognition that humanity serves as the galaxy's primary civilization going forward. The terms were equivalent to unconditional surrender, but the alternative was total extinction. "How long do we have to decide?" Exthal asked. "Your fleets have 5 days to reach human space for integration. After that, we seal our dimensional barriers and defend our own territory exclusively." As the escort vessels prepared to guide them back to the system's edge, Kane delivered his final message. "Tell the Council that humanity tried silence for 78 cycles. Now the galaxy gets to choose between human leadership or devourer consumption." The reconnaissance fleet departed Sol space, carrying information that would either unite the galaxy under human command or condemn every species to extinction. The choice belonged to civilizations that had never imagined they might not be making their own decisions much longer. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 18 hours after the reconnaissance fleet's return, but the chamber's atmosphere had transformed completely. Where once representatives had gathered as equals debating policy, they now assembled as civilizations facing extinction, while their only hope for survival demanded their unconditional surrender. Commander Exthal stood at the center of the judgment platform, delivering her report to delegates whose species had conquered stars and shaped reality itself, but who now faced obsolescence at the hands of entities they had dismissed as primitive decades earlier. "The human technological capabilities exceed our combined civilizations by factors we cannot calculate," she reported, her voice carrying the weight of devastating truth. "Their defensive network could eliminate our entire galactic fleet in approximately 14 minutes. Their manufacturing capacity produces more military assets daily than our combined shipyards complete annually." Chancellor Corinth's massive coral and crystal form had darkened to shades indicating species-level despair. "And the approaching threat?" "Confirmed. The Devourers will reach our outer territories in 4 days, not 14 months. Our conventional defenses will delay them by hours at most." Ambassador Thrix coiled her serpentine form within containment fields that could no longer hide her species' fear responses. "What are humanity's exact terms for assistance?" Commander Exthal transmitted the data package humanity had provided. As the information flowed through the chamber's networks, translating into hundreds of different communication methods, the scope of human demands became clear: complete political integration under human authority, total military subordination to human command structures, technological assimilation into human-controlled networks, and formal acknowledgement that humanity represented the galaxy's dominant civilization. "Unconditional surrender," declared Representative Krill, her mechanical voice processing the logical implications with crystalline clarity. "They're demanding we abandon 10,000 years of independent civilization to become clients of a species we considered primitive until this week." Dr. Verlix of the Titan Collective transmitted gravitational patterns indicating profound disturb. "The alternative is extinction within 6 months. Our probability calculations show 0 survival chance without human assistance." The chamber erupted in chaotic debate as civilizations that had never bowed to external authority struggled with the impossible choice between pride and survival. Ancient enemies found themselves allied in opposition to human demands, while traditional allies split over whether integration offered hope or represented slavery. 3 hours into the session, the chamber's communication systems activated with an incoming priority transmission. David Kane's image appeared, but his form had changed again. He now appeared to exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions, his outline shifting between solid matter and pure energy patterns. "Honored delegates," he said with the same courtesy he had shown months earlier, "we're transmitting current tactical data regarding the approaching entities." The holographic displays filled with real-time sensor information showing the Devourer's advance. The entities had accelerated beyond all previous calculations. their consumption of space-time itself allowing them to compress distances that should have taken months into days. First contact with our outer detection grid occurs in 37 hours, Kane announced. Galactic fleet integration must be completed within 26 hours to ensure proper defensive coordination. Chancellor Corinth found his voice despite the cosmic horror bearing down on them. Human Kane, your terms essentially demand the end of galactic civilization as we know it. Yes, Kane replied without hesitation. Because galactic civilization as you know it ends in 37 hours regardless. The only question is whether it ends through evolution or extinction. Ambassador Thrix's species had never retreated from any conflict in their recorded history. But she found herself advocating for surrender. What guarantees do we have that humanity will honor agreements made under duress? Kane's expression showed something approaching compassion. Ambassador, we're offering to save civilizations that spent 78 cycles dismissing us as irrelevant. We're providing defense against entities that consider your species food sources. The question isn't whether we'll honor our agreements. It's whether your species will survive long enough for those agreements to matter. The brutal honesty cut through political rhetoric like antimatter through armor plating. Every delegate in the chamber understood that they were negotiating from a position of absolute weakness with their only potential saviors. Representative Krill's logical matrices reached their conclusion first. The Trade Federation formally requests integration into human defensive networks. Survival supersedes sovereignty in any rational calculation. Her announcement triggered a cascade of similar decisions. The Luminary Confederacy, beings of pure energy who had considered themselves beyond physical destruction, formally submitted to human authority. The Titan Collective, whose species had engineered planets, acknowledged human technological superiority. Within 6 hours, every major civilization had transmitted formal integration requests. Ancient pride gave way to species survival instincts as the reality of their situation overwhelmed centuries of independence. Chancellor Corinth, speaking for what remained of the Galactic Council, delivered their collective surrender. Humanity is hereby recognized as the galaxy's primary civilization. All military assets are transferred to human command. We request immediate integration into your defensive networks. Kane nodded as if he had expected nothing else. Integration begins immediately. Fleet commanders will receive navigation coordinates for Sol space. Civilian populations will be relocated to protected systems behind our dimensional barriers. Military assets will be upgraded with human technology and integrated into our command structure. The transformation began within hours. Human vessels appeared throughout the galaxy, not through normal space travel but by emerging from dimensional interfaces that connected distant regions instantly. They weren't conquest fleets, they were integration networks, converting entire star systems into components of humanity's vast defensive matrix. On the chamber's displays, they watched as their homeworlds were surrounded by structures that materialized from folded spacetime. Ancient capitals that had stood for millennia were enhanced with human technology that operated on principles their science couldn't comprehend. What happens to our cultures, our histories, our independence? Dr. Verlix asked, her massive form radiating concern for concepts beyond mere survival. Kane's answer carried undertones that suggested vast computational networks processing the question across multiple consciousness levels. Your cultures become part of human civilization, which becomes stronger through diversity. Your histories are preserved in quantum storage matrices that cannot be destroyed. Your independence transforms into participation in something larger than any single species could achieve. As he spoke, the first devourer entity reached humanity's outer detection grid. The chamber's display showed the encounter in real time, watching as an entity the size of a solar system encountered defensive capabilities it had never faced before. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, the devourer had been completely converted into pure energy and channeled into humanity's dimensional storage matrices. Where an entity capable of consuming stars had existed, there was now only empty space and dissipating energy patterns. One down, Kane said conversationally. 2,416 remaining. Our integrated defensive network should complete processing within 48 hours. The casualness with which he discussed eliminating cosmic horrors that had terrorized galaxies for eons demonstrated the true scope of human capabilities. They weren't just defending against the Devourers. They were harvesting them for energy. Commander Exthal, now serving as liaison between traditional galactic forces and human command structures, asked the question that defined their new reality. What comes after the Devourers are eliminated? Kane's smile carried depths that reflected the vastness of integrated human consciousness spanning multiple dimensions. After, we explore the spaces between galaxies, establish contact with civilizations the Devourers haven't reached yet, and expand consciousness throughout the universe. Your species thought this galaxy was large, but it's merely the starting point. As the session concluded and delegates prepared to oversee their civilization's integration into human space, the cosmic truth became clear. Humanity's silence had never been about hiding weakness or avoiding responsibility. It had been about waiting for the galaxy to become ready for the universe. The age of independent species was ending, not through conquest but through evolution, into something larger than any civilization had imagined possible. The Devourers had served as the catalyst that forced galactic unity, but they were merely the first challenge in humanity's expansion beyond the boundaries of known space. In the depths of space, ancient entities that had consumed countless galaxies discovered that their next feeding ground had evolved teeth, claws, and an appetite for conquest that exceeded their own. The galaxy's silence was breaking, and the universe was about to discover what happened when humanity stopped pretending to be small.